So today for chapter 7.10, what we're doing is we're finding unknown lengths. But our learning goal for today is to solve problems by using the strategy guess, check, and revise. Now you may have heard of guess and check before, but why is that word revise? Why is that there? Why is it so important? Stuart?
It's kind of like ballparking. So if you don't know what that means, it's like you guess like a number. So let's say it's asking you to find it's asking you to find like blank percent of this is equal to this. So basically you guess like if this is the number, then 50% is that.
Yeah.
So then, but it doesn't work, and you need a higher number, so you say 75%.
Yeah, the revise part of the guess, check, and revise strategy tells you how you should change your guess. If your first guess didn't work, should you just randomly guess another number? Or should you strategically guess another number based on your first result? Yeah, so that's what the revise part means, okay? But first let's talk about the problem of the day. Okay, so Sarah wants to design a rectangular garden with a section for flowers to attract butterflies. She wants the area of this section to be 3/4 of a square yard. So let's go ahead and draw in our picture, in our notebooks. Her whole garden is a rectangle. Now, not the whole thing is going to be flowers, just one section of it is going to have flowers that attracts butterflies. We don't really know how big, but let's just say this section is going to have flowers that will attract butterflies, okay? And she wants the area of this section to be 3/4 square yards. How do you find the area of a rectangle? Is this section with flowers, is it also a rectangle? Yeah, right? How do we find the formula for area of a rectangle? Shreya? Right, we have the length times the width, okay? So we know that the length of her area times the width is going to be how much? 3/4 square yards. Okay, all right, that little line over there is a squared. Now, she wants the width to be 1/3 of the length. Okay, so we know that the width is going to equal 1/3 of the length. But we don't know what those lengths and widths are. The question is asking, what will the dimensions of the butterfly section be? So we're trying to figure out what the length and the width are. And we don't know what either of them are. We just know that the width is 1/3 of the length. And when I multiply the length and the width, it's going to be 3/4 square yards. Okay? Okay, so we can solve this problem by guessing, checking, and revising. Okay, so we're going to have a guess column over here. We're going to have a check column over here. And a revise. Go ahead and draw that into your notebook. It's like a 3-column T-chart. Okay. Now, within the guess column, we're going to make 2 columns. It's like a T-chart within a T-chart. Tavi, I'm going to ask you to put your hands down until we're done, okay? And over here, we're going to write length and the width. Okay? So go ahead and set up this massive T-chart in your notebook. And 1 is an easy number to work with because of the identity property, right? It helps me figure out numbers. So if I know that my length is 1, what must my width be? If my length is 1 yard, what would my width be? Colin? Why? How do you know that my width would be 1/3 of a yard?
Because in the problem it said that the width would be 1/3 of the length.
Right. In the problem it says that the width is exactly 1/3 of the length. So my length is 1 yard. My width must be 1/3 of a yard. I could find the width by doing what math equation? Length times what? 1/3. Is 1 times 1/3 1/3? Good. Now let's check it by seeing what the area would be. How do I find the area of this rectangle of 1 by 1/3? I do the length times the width, right? So what is the length times the width here? Jason? Which is 1/3 square yards. Okay, now what do I want my final area to be? Sarah wants the area of her flower garden to be how big? Liam? 3-4 square yards. Now, if my area is 1/3 square yards, is my number too big or too small?
Small.
Does that mean that for my next guess, I should guess a bigger number or guess a smaller number? Yeah, I should try a longer length. Okay? So that guess and check didn't work. Now let's revise. If I want to check a longer length, what should I check? Let's try 2. Okay. If my length is 2, what would my width be? Thomas? How would I find my width if my length is 2? Right, because I would do 2 length times 1/3, which is 2 times 1/3, which equals 2/3, right? Now, how would I find my area? Let's check to see if the area is exactly 3/4. What is my area? How could I find the area? Soham? I would do length times width, or 2 times 2/3, which is what? 4/3 or 1 1/3, right? So let's think about that. What do we want our final area to be? We want it to be 3/4. That's our goal. So is 1 1/3, is that too big, too small, or just right? So what does that mean? How should we revise our guess? We should try something that's in between 1 and 2, right? Okay, so this is too big. Okay, let's do our third guess. What's a number in between 1 and 2 that we might want to try? Siddharth? Okay, let's try 1.5. If our length is 1.5, how can I find the width? Adriana?
Well, you can do 1.5 times 1/3.
Okay, let's do that. I would have to change 1.5 to an improper fraction or use distributive property. Let's use the distributive property. Let's change it into an improper fraction. 1 1/2 is how many halves? Times 1/3. I can do cross canceling here, right? So what would that equal? 1 times 1 is? And 2 times 1 is? Okay, so the width would be 1/2. How can I check? What do I need to do? I need to check what the area would be. What would the area be if the length is 1 1/2 and the width is 1/2? Matthew? How can I, tell me the formula. Okay, length times width, so my length is 1.5 times the width, which is 1/2. Okay, and let's convert that into an improper fraction. 1 1/2 is 3/2 times 1/2. Okay, let's do the numerator. What's 3 times 1? Denominator? 2 times 2? Oh, 3/4 square yards. Is that what we want? Yes. Just right. So, what is the answer to the word problem? What was the word problem asking? Rashika? Yeah, the word problem was asking what are the dimensions. So what would the answer be? 1 1/2. What's the units? Yards by 1/2 yards. Okay, and that is the final answer.